I don't know if you guys knew, but I actually play guitar. But like, pretty well. Let me show you the nail situation anyway, dude. They're quite a bit longer than I would normally have them for playing the guitar. But yeah, I do play. That's what I'm gonna play. That's because I do play, and I did. So now you know. This is Frank the guitar, actually. He has a name. It's on him, written in permanent marker. Truly. So, my name is Evan Strong. This is In the Image Clothing Company podcast. I am the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. That doesn't have to be a big deal to you, but there's some context for who I am because I'm speaking. Now, today is the 26th of February, 2025. This is episode 70 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. The title of this is You Won't Miss Much. And we'll get into it. So, first, I'll give a little rundown on what In the Image Clothing Company is. There's three sides to us. The big thing that In the Image Clothing Company does physically is we address the human body's natural function, coming at it through the skeletal system. And first three words, in the five as a whole, in the image, we're all universally designed. If you haven't heard that, if you don't understand that, if you're like, well, this guy is 2 feet taller than me and this dude weighs like 100 pounds less than I do, in whatever case, on any end of everything, right? It doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter, and times three I've said it, it doesn't matter, because here's the thing. The skeletal system of our human bodies are just structured the way that they are, and every joint within the body just has the function that it has. Just two bones connecting, and they only do what they do. They only have the range of motion that's there, and everything just has a neutral position, the neutral wrist, the neutral pelvis, the neutral spine, the neutral jaw, the neutral position the shoulder capsule sits in, and the knees will track neutrally. The ankle has a neutral position. There's nice gripped arches in our feet that grip inward to the center line of our bodies that is there. You don't have to believe any kind of anything or nothing at all, please, because I don't believe anything. But we talk about the truth of all things, which is the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're all universally designed, so that's what I mean. You don't really understand what I mean by that, stick around. You got a problem with what I'm saying, even already? We're like, what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes into this, give or take? That's fine. Stick around, right? More context, deeper understandings, and don't believe me. Truly, please do not. We just speak on truths here. We discuss things as they are, as they will always be, because they always have been. And it applies to you, it applies to me, and it applies to the guy and girl across the street in the Jeep looking at the things in the marketplace that always change. So we're going to talk about some things that never leave. Right? A lot of random stuff happens here at the podcast, but in a good way. Random with a lot of intentionality behind it. Just stuff that's very unexpected to both the listener and the one saying it, which is me, Evan Strong. So on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, one of the other thirds, besides this one here, right? In the Image Clothing Company podcast is where we're currently at. We have just the company over here, right? Where we talk about the anatomy of the body. We address the human body's ability to just do the keyword allow is what it is. So let me rephrase that the way that I didn't enter it the first time. Our keyword under In the Image Clothing Company is allowing the body to work. The body's just a mechanical machine, and it's designed to do certain things, and we'll never get it to do anything, don't believe me, but it's the truth, that it wasn't designed to do. Because like I said, everything only has the function it has in every function within the body, but you know, physically, we have to have our structural system in its only working location, or else everything else doesn't matter, because all those things come secondary. Truly, right? So, I mean, even like the digestive system, right? The circulatory system. The heart can only pump blood through veins that are going through joints that aren't pinched off because they're not in their only working position, right? The lungs can only expand and allow your respiratory system to work correct if the ribs that are encapsulating the lungs are allowed to be expanding and contracting themselves because they really do move, even though they're bones, right? They do. So, yeah. We talk about eating naturally, sitting naturally, standing naturally, walking naturally, hydration, and what that really means. You didn't know you were listening to a radio show, did you? Well, you're not. So whether you knew it or not, don't believe me. But we're talking about things as they are. So we get into more than that. But the point with clothing being the last two words in our 5 words as a whole name that is one word, but kind of not quite technically. As far as you look up in a dictionary, you're not going to see all these letters jumbled up together that says In the Image Clothing Company, but it is one word as far as our company name. But we are a clothing company because clothing is the only thing that's placed physically on our bodies. And we're addressing our bodies. And so clothing is the only thing that has that high of a potential to alter people's physical workings. And again, that's what has to come before anything else is the position of the body. Truly, right? Workouts, hey, do them if you want, but only if you want, because you don't need to. We need to just allow our bodies to be in their only structural position, and then they'll just do their thing. With the amount of muscle mass we naturally would have, right? Fat content changes, and so does what I just mentioned with, you go to the gym and do workouts, but then it only lasts until, well, where'd it go, you're thinking, right? I mean, I like to say your workouts today don't actually help you tomorrow. Your workouts yesterday aren't helping you today, unless you're getting ready to work out again the next day. I mean, it's wearing off immediately because the body just has a natural state that it'll rest in if we're not altering it. So that's the goal. The goal is natural, actually. That's another thing we say a lot of the time here. So the other third of our 3 thirds is In the Image Clothing Company music. And over there we talk about keeping the body position correct when we're playing things like my little Yamaha CG-S102A Frank the guitar that I played a little bit at the beginning. He's got a custom radius because he's a classical guitar, but our hands are not flat. I don't care how many thousands of seconds or hundreds of days or whatever classical guitars have been around. The human body's been around longer, and the hands are around. So all your opinions can be flushed down the toilet with mine because truth is truth. So, but we mess up, right? Sinful by nature is what I always say we are because don't believe me, but that's the case. And that's relieving probably if you've never heard that. But so we adjust, and address guitars. I also make music on In the Image Clothing Company music. I just don't want to get too far off with anything that I shouldn't be far off from, right? And so with all that being said, well, I think this is the thing. Is like I was trying to correct myself and trying to make that flow smoother than it needed to. Well, I think the point with being sinful by nature, right, is we discuss the gospel of Jesus Christ, the truth of all things. Don't believe me, but you've got a question with what's going on around you because you live here, and so do I, and every human also does. And the answers are Jesus Christ. One answer to every question? What? It's the truth. Don't believe it. It'll manifest itself to you, though. That's how I can say, don't believe me. But then it's like, well, why are you talking, right? Some people might be wondering. Well, because I don't need to tell you something for it to be what it is. But I can shine light on things as they are. And so that's what we do here. Now, because everybody's body just has the same functionality, I mean, physically, right? We talk about it being a mechanical machine. Our clothing can get us into these chronic, persistent patterns of pain that we can't seem to get rid of. And I'm not mocking it because it's not fun, man. I've experienced a lot of pain in my past, and a lot of people around me are going through it. And when I say a lot of people, just about every single person, because of all the reasons they are, but clothing has changed. Materials have been invented, which is a strange thing to even try to wrap your hand around, so don't. I mean, let go of all these things you're trying to believe in. We're not even quite into the discussion. We're still in the intro, and we're already into it. So clothing can really get us into these chronic patternings because our bodies have a center line. There's no belief to have because there's a spine. It's fed from the brain through the brainstem with a nervous system that goes out through our entire body. It allows us to have a sense of touch. And there's also the sternum in the front of the body. There's the nose in the center. The trachea sits right in the center of the neck. There's two sides to a human body with 2 feet, 2 hands, and 2 legs, 2 arms, 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils. 2 of every kind of all the animals that Noah had were placed upon the ark when he floated across the water of a flooded earth. If you don't have 2 arms, though, like you got an amputation or something, well, don't just like. I don't know what I was going to say, but I think the big thing is we understand things like that, right? I mean, we get deformities and we get amputations, we get major surgeries. We understand it, is what I mean by we get it. But the body still has to do all that it can to stay centered because gravity pulls us straight down from our center as a human being. So, I mean, even if you're missing one leg and you've only got one of those left, you've still probably got 2 lungs, right? And those are on 2 sides of your rib cage on, either side of your spine. But even if you're missing, I mean, we can get into whatever. Just we're human beings, dude. We're different. Even though we're all universally designed. So, it's the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. It's a lot of things we say something within the gospel, literally translated just means good news, as we discussed, right? The good news, the truth of all things, the answers that you've probably been looking for, because I know I was, even though I knew I didn't fully allow myself to accept for a long time. But yeah, man, wow, it's hard hitting, dude. Let's talk about real quick. I don't know if I didn't fully finish what I was saying right there. I feel okay about not whatever it was. If it comes back to me, we'll say it. If not, then hey, right? But I will say this because this is what we do at the intros. Clothing for everybody needs to sit where the pant waistline is entirely above our hips, not restricting our hips at all. And with the waistband angle, it needs to be slightly higher in the front than in the rear. The core muscles of our body, what you think of as like a 6-pack or an 8-pack, the abdominal muscles, they have to and always would be activated. Okay? So when I said have to, I just mean people are trying to train their core to do the thing it was designed to, but if there's anything within clothing placed onto us that's altering our body's positions, then muscles are just being pulled on. Joints are being pulled out of their only working position, potentially. And so that's where pants need to sit. You don't have to have any kind of anything. And there's no question, there's no other option, there's no preference. That's just how the human body is structured and the only way it's ever going to work. So the tops that we wear, the seams on top of our shoulders have to sit evenly behind these little bones at the top of our shoulders up here, because those are the other end of the collarbone that comes down to the middle of the front of your body right here, at the base of your throat, right? Your trachea. They meet in the center of the sternum, okay? And allowing those shoulder seams to sit there evenly behind these bones on top will allow our shoulders to sit in their only working location. We discussed this on the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. I just got humbled by something. If you could tell, my countenance changed. On the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, as I just said, I reiterated, we show how the body naturally works. I mean, I say it all the time. I really have, at least. Don't believe me. But there's only one way that your muscles insert. Muscles can just only pull from one insertion to another and get shorter from 2 endpoints. And so the shoulders naturally sit behind the body. They'll never work anywhere else. And the reason you're experiencing your pain that you have is your body's just telling you that it's being forced to do something that it doesn't. We're not going to just overcome our mind and get our bodies to do whatever we want. We're not going to try to believe that we can have our bodies go into this position and do those things and operate this way, because just like the episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast titled, "We Didn't Design It, We Can't Decide It," that's the case, okay? I don't care what you want to believe. The edge seams of our shoulders need to sit right at the joint here, right? There's a ball and socket joint. The shoulder humerus comes up into here. It's called the glenohumeral head, right? I mean, we'll get into it, but we do, so we already have. Furthering it is what happens when we discuss it again, right? Additional, secondary, accumulating knowledge, understanding. Are you understanding that I don't know everything? Because don't blame me if I'm saying something wrong. Don't believe me. But the seam has to sit where the shoulder is going to move, or else you're just going to have clashing functionality. Again, the body's just trying to operate. It's like building a robot, and it's just going to do what it's going to do. But the difference is we didn't build our bodies, but that robot that we did build, we can tweak and try to get to do something different. But our God designed our bodies. Don't believe me, but how else did you become what you are? I'm not asking for a debate. I don't care to talk about anything. Please leave me alone, as I always say. And by always, I mean every time that I do, which has been quite often within In the Image Clothing Company podcast. So, yeah. Now, In the Image Clothing Company has two things we call prerequisites to just further aid in no restriction to the human body. The first one is our shoelacing. I'm going to stop right there because I don't want to make it sound like we're trying to tell you to do something, right? But the top of the human feet only are shaped the way that they are, and they will only do the things that they do in the positions they're designed to work in. So the shoelacing technique that In the Image Clothing Company uses is the only way to weave a rope on top of your feet that's not going to do anything besides accommodate for the shape of your foot. Now, secondly, we'll get to, but with tying our shoes, in addition to just having them laced correct so it fits on the feet, the only way the feet are shaped, we also tie the shoes evenly over toward the inside on both feet to the center line of the body that is there. Otherwise, you're starting your entire human mechanics at its base foundation, being the feet, the lowest point on an earth with gravity, in a twist if you're not tying them evenly over toward the inside, which I wasn't doing until I was 24 years old. So don't feel like you're being singled out, because you are not. Now, in anything, I mean, we're equal human beings, regardless of how hard that is to see in whatever situation. Sometimes it's just like, we just don't want it to be the case, you know? Now, secondly, though, yeah, man, that's tough. This is tough, dude. The emotion I'm feeling within this, not a bad tough. Tough as in, like, I don't know how to explain it, dude. It's funny because I got no care, dude. How flowy it is. I got no care if you're even interested in listening. I'm not doing this for people's sake. I'm doing this because I'm being told to. And I only listen to one. So, you got a problem with that? Stick around. Deeper context. You'll see what you'll see as and when and if you're willing to, okay? Seriously. So secondly, our other prerequisite is to remove all tags from clothing. Anywhere a tag is in the clothing, it's either causing a physical gap, changing the body's structural, mechanical, skeletal systems, locations of connecting, which you can't do because we didn't decide where they do work. Or, yeah, I mean, it's pressing against our musculature and not allowing it to activate. And so the body's being very, very much altered. Even within the shoes, tags, all places within clothing removed. Okay, now let's get into this. Yeah, so this is episode 70 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. That in itself is like, we've made 70 episodes of this thing. By we, I mean, as far as human beings go, solely me. It's shocking to me. It's amazing. Yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, this is titled whatever I said earlier, and I'll say it again if it comes to me. Because we won't, man. It's, a lot of times there's a lot of talk that happens. A lot of times there's a lot of options of things to do on this earth, and we're looking around at them all, and we're counting our little pennies, and we're counting all the things besides our many blessings, and we think that we're going to miss out if we don't get to do. And then you could insert whatever you want in that little pause that I had, because the title is You Won't Miss Much. There's so many things to choose from. There's so many things. There's so many vacations. There's so many places that you're not currently at. And if I sound like I'm mocking you, I'm just mocking the human condition that I myself also potentially have to deal with to the degree that I do, just as you and him and her. Okay. But we're not going to miss out on stuff, dude. I mean, people like to talk things up, experiences, or, I mean, yeah, whatever it is, man. And it's, I want to say this little phrase right now, so I will. There's a big difference, and it's kind of two separate ends. Like, you can have one experience going on, and you can have a depth of experience, or you can have a breadth of experience. Breadth with a D, B-R. If this isn't spelled correct, well, it's something like this. I was gonna just say some random letters so that it's like so obvious that, hey, I mess up. But like B-R-E-A-D-T-H, maybe? Breadth. 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 There's like a D. It's not breath, like breathing, but as in how broad something is, right? Versus digging a hole. Because here's, well, yeah, I'll paint a little picture real quick of how we can see the difference between depth and breadth. Because if you're going to dig a hole, you've got just like an open place of ground, and you dig a hole that's only just, you know, a little bit bigger than what you're digging it with, like just a small hole as far as how wide it is. But you can dig straight down as far as you could go until you pop out the other side of our flat earth. No, just kidding. Until you pop out the other side of the globe, though, really. But then there's a breadth that you can choose to dig, right? And so now you dig a really, really big, wide area, but you don't dig it very deep, okay? So that's depth versus breadth. And I need us to see that. And you don't have to care. But if you want to learn what I'm sharing within this, not because it's my opinion, but because we're going to talk about some things that will probably give a lot of people a lot of relief, then you got to see the difference between that, right? Small little hole, digging very, very deep. You could seriously go through the whole globe of our Earth. But then you dig a really wide area, only very shallow. You only go down a little bit, right? But you've dug so much like surface area of the Earth, right? Here's the thing. A lot of people want a breadth of experience. They want to go around and they're looking at this big old piece of land we just like laid out in our imagery, right? And they want to dig over there just a little bit, and they want to dig clear over there a little bit. And they're going to come back over on this side and dig a little bit. And they kind of just want to get this big old broad, shallow experience of life. But then there's some other people, and this is how I am. I don't want it to sound like it's me boasting because people think the other way is better. And then people think the other way is better. But wait, which one did we start on, right? We're just individuals, but I will say what I will say. So if you want to listen, you already are. Continue. I like a depth of experience, right? Because what you can do digging just this small little hole just straight down through the whole earth is as you're going down there, you're learning more and more and more and more about what's in this same hole. But if you're digging over there, just like very lightly going down, and then you move on to something else, you got a little bit of understanding of what that was and a little bit of experience, but you know, there's all these other things that kind of look nice to you as well. And so you kind of just barely scratch the surface, if you will, of the digging in a bunch of different areas, and you don't really fully understand any of those things. You don't really fully experience any of those things. But each time you start to dig a little bit, you realize there's another area you haven't dug in yet. And so you'll go do that until you realize there's another area you haven't dug in yet. And as you're doing that, you're not spending enough time in the cases that I'm laying out here in each of those locations to even really get much of anything from what you're doing. But that person who has that really, really deep hole, they get to experience it and experience it and experience, and they just keep going and going and going and going. And so I really want to make this clear. The gospel of Jesus Christ, as I say, don't believe me, as I say, it's the truth of all things. And so we're commanded to not care about the world. That's real. And it's strange because we're placed here and well that's I talk about the difference between the earth and the man-made world because I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to go into it right now because I've talked about it. That's why I said I talk about it because I have. So check out past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, just any of them if you'd like to. There's a lot of good information that I say. You don't have to believe that, but there is. So there's so much here that we could choose to bounce from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing again and again and again. Or we can just realize that underlying all of these things is where you're going to deepen your understanding if you get a depth of experience. Because under all the surface of this big old wide area that we're choosing to either barely dig in and move around or dig really deeply into, regardless of which choice you're choosing, underneath all that is that depth. And so you're over there on that side of the thing and you can do just a little bit, but if you were to keep going, you'd find out underneath it all is the same earth, right? And any location that you could have chosen to just do the surface level digging, if you would have just kept going in the same location, you'd understand that no matter which part of those things you were digging at, if you go deep in it, you're at the same place as anywhere else. You're just on the same earth. And that hits, doesn't it? You don't have to agree with me, because maybe it doesn't. But, a lot of people talk about going on vacations. And a lot of people get jealous. A lot of people talk about how many amusement parks they've gone to, or how many diverse experiences they've had all over the who knows. And it doesn't matter. Because those people, in most cases, we are individuals and people have different levels of intentionality. They have different approaches to things and they have different reasons for doing what they're doing. But in most cases, and I can say that really is how it is, the people who are having all these experiences and traveling all over the place and talking to 1,000 people at one event, but for maybe like 4 seconds to maybe a minute and a half per each of them, they're not actually doing much of anything. If that offends you, good. There's a lot that we can experience in our own backyard. Yeah, I don't want to think that, I have an opinion, and I don't want people to think that I care if they think I do. I want to make it as real as it is because the gospel of Jesus Christ is like the center of the earth, if you will. And no matter where we are, we can just dig and get a deeper rooted connection and understanding of the truth of all things. Because we're all equals. And so let's say you do live where I currently do and have up until this point throughout my entire life in the United States of America. But you hear about places like Norway and London and Antarctica and Africa. And you heard about some other kind of place that sounded green but actually had a lot of ice to it. And another place that sounded really cold but it was actually really luscious. Right? Iceland and Greenland. Right? You hear about all these places across the whole earth, but you're still on the same one where you already are. And you probably don't know what's in your backyard. And I'm not like mocking you, but I mean it and I know it from experience. because a lot of times I just wanted the experience, and I'd go do the thing, and then I'd get back home and be like, what's next? And no matter how grand any of those experiences seemed to be before going into them, or while I was there, I was like, well, it's funny because while you're there, it's like you're trying to get yourself to see it as what you hyped it up to be. But really, you're like, man, you've got a few days left in your trip and thinking, maybe it'd be all right to just go home a day or two early, Or you think it's the best thing ever till you do get back home, and then you're like, whew, it's nice to be back. It's, we can experience so much without changing where we already are, who we already are, because that's not something you're ever going to change. I don't care what you believe. You can expound on what you are. You can understand yourself more, who you've been designed to be. But a lot of people don't know because they're looking outside rather than where they are. Right? I mean, it's like living in a beautiful house, but you just want to go out. And you don't really realize what you have where you're at because somebody else has something different, right? And so there you go, across the pond to the other side of our earth, It's the same thing. I mean, you skip a rock across a stream or you drive a boat across the globe. It's just water. It's just the earth. You're not going anywhere different. You're really not. But a lot of people will hear about a lot of people's experiences and, like I said, feel very jealous. You're sitting there in a conversation with somebody, but there's somebody else over there, right? Doesn't matter. Because if you were going over there to talk to them, you'd notice there's somebody else now. And then what? You go dig over there for about an inch or two, right? 4 or 5 centimeters down, right? You're never really where you are if you're not there, if you're trying to be somewhere else, And a lot of times people are just expecting things to get better the more that they do. And things always get better the less that we do. Don't believe me, but less is more. That's a recurring theme throughout the existence of the human being. Don't let me tell you something. Please, don't believe me. And please leave me alone, and I mean that. I really mean that. So, you're not going to miss out. Your homies talking about they're going down the block to do who knows what until they get back and wish they never left, right? But you didn't end up going. But while they were gone, you're thinking, man, who knows? They might be having the time of their lives. And then they get back and everybody's like, shoot, bro, why did we do that? If you don't know, well, cool. You'll find out. But don't think it's like a hopefully sooner than later type of thing, because we learn from experiences that we put all our expectations on were going to be so good until we did them and it didn't fulfill us, and so we want to try again with something else. So how about calm down and see where you're at and realize that's the only place you're ever going to be. Because an experience is only something you can have if you're there, but a lot of people aren't actually ever really where they're at. They're living vicariously through an experience that hasn't happened, but they're hoping for. And then when it does, they're like hoping for something else, Yeah, you're not going to miss out on much, man. You're not going to miss much. That's the title of this here episode of the Image Clothing Company Podcast, episode 70. You're not going to miss it, dude. You're not going to miss out. I don't care how many people's names you know, because I've had friends that I've been pretty close with for months or years, and I never even asked them their name. That's real. And that's a lot of people's case. But a lot of people just want to know every single person's name, but they don't know a thing about them. A lot of people want to visit every part of the globe, but they never experience it while they're there. So they get back home and they're looking through their photographs and they're trying to, like, figure out what they can do next, right? Again, and it's so crazy, dude. It's nuts. It's unfortunate, but, fortunately, we all do it. So don't feel like you're being singled out. That's what I said earlier, right? Don't agree with me. What if I'm wrong? Then you're going to feel all weird about it because you just thought that it was the right thing to do to believe me. Please don't. But I'm just discussing things as they are. But there's a depth of experience that you can have when there's nothing going on. And a lot of people just are so worried about missing out on things that they don't want to do. But a lot of times, right, if you're looking at the world and the world's preaching to you, again, the world, the man-made stuff that's here, placed onto nature, there's so much that you could choose from, and sure, but I'd rather not. So thank you, goodbye, right? That's really the best attitude to have, and don't let me tell you what to do. But I'll show you how to be fulfilled universally, and it's Jesus the Christ. Because our God is everywhere and always, and he doesn't care if we're going to this place or that place, or if we get this promotion or those degrees, right? Or whatever, dude. Our heads are going up in degrees as we're getting more hot-headed and heated, right? Filling with helium, so the expansion is happening in our cranium. All of a sudden, we got these big egoic heads because we're talking about all these experiences that we didn't, but we went. But the thing is, you're not going to miss out on it if you don't go, dude. You're not going to miss out on it if you're not in the conversation. You're not going to miss out on it if you didn't hear the joke that everybody's laughing at. There's a lot of times people are just laughing because it just seems to be the thing that happens when somebody tells a joke. Because that way, that term like lightheartedness, right? If somebody says a joke that you don't like and you just, I don't like that joke, then that might cause a little bit of some discomfort in the person who said the joke. And so what happens a lot of the time is people will just laugh, whether it was funny or not. And then somebody else will hear them laughing and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I better go figure out what they're laughing about. Well, don't. You're not missing out. You won't miss much. You walk over there, right? And what are you guys talking about? And they're like, this guy said, what did he say? And then they're like trying to like walk the other direction after they ask because they don't want to hear it again. They laugh just because everybody else did. See what I mean? That's how it is, dude. That's how it is. I mean, people go on all these vacations, but when they get home, they're just complaining about the airfare. It's like, man, yeah, sure. I mean, I wanted to go to Pakistan my entire life until I had to sit on a plane for 14 hours and in an airport for another 6. Good grief. Right? You get back from a vacation and you hear these kind of phrases like, remind me to like never want to travel again. And people saying stuff like that all the time, dude. But then before they went, they just bragged to all their friends about their trip that was coming up. And then when they get back home, they try to make it a better sounding experience than it really was. And now they're wondering what else to do. But the same thing might happen. You're not missing out on much. Yeah, sure, that girl's so cute to you until what? You get sick of kissing and she has nothing else to offer you? How about just don't kiss her in the first place? you won't miss much. Besides, you're not going to have to recover from this sickness that came from her saliva into your mouth, and now you're sick. You're sick of jumping from person to person, continent to continent, and conversation to conversation. You're constantly waiting for life to just make an appearance. Being like, where is my life that I've been asking to live? Well, it's right where you are, so stop running away from it. Because when you go, what you do miss is where you already were before you left to try to not miss out on the thing that you're going to do. And I'm not trying to mock, like I said. I don't want to make it sound like it's mean, because a lot of people might be in situations right now that they're not so fond of, like an actual environment or whatever, right? I mean, I get the desire to go experience all these things, but I get the desire to, get that short gratification in whatever it is, I mean, anything that could come up that could make you feel something for a second, maybe, or it might last 3 or 4, right? Full seconds. And that's an exaggeration in some cases, I mean, you go on a 4 or 5 day vacation somewhere, and sure, I mean, you're somewhere that you weren't before. That's geographically correct, sure. But where you're not is the place that you're actually at. Because this is the whole thing, really, truly. I mean, wherever you go, there you are, right? How wise of a phrase is that? Somebody said it once, and then I've said it also. I don't know whose phrase that is, but probably the person who says it, whenever that is. Meaning, how we're going to own some words. We live in a made-up society. Listen to this, though, before you turn it off and think that I've got some kind of philosophical craziness about me. Well, I do. But you'll get something from it. Don't let me tell you something, but you don't have to believe this to have it pierce you to your very center. You know this stuff because you've been running from this stuff your whole life. When you think you're running to things, you're actually running away from yourself. Because everywhere and anywhere and all the places that you aren't at is where you just landed. Anywhere you go, there you are. You're not going to get away from yourself, but you can get away from Kennewick, Washington. Right? You can get away from New Hampshire. You can totally leave Japan if you want, but it's you that's leaving the location. And you're going to be there when you land in Jamaica. So, you didn't go anywhere. Truly, right? And so, but you feel like you're going to miss out if you don't leave. Yeah, you're not. Don't believe me, but talk to me about it when you get back, right? Like, it is what it is, and that's how it works. And so, you're not missing out on much, man. I mean, I know that your friend's got a BMW. Maybe I don't know it, but I could predict it, right? And if I'm wrong, hey, guess what? I'm sinful by nature. I mess up. But yeah, dude, your homie's got the nicest car out there. And you're driving something that was made 25 years ago. And his still has plastic on the carpet of the floorboards in the footwell of his driver's seat. And you're thinking, hey, man, well, I mean, I could probably get a loan, And so you go down to the marketplace or the place where the market's at, or the place where they mark up the price of the cars too much and claim that they're worth something when it's just a piece of metal that decomposes. Yeah, am I crazy? Do I got a philosophical belief that's something that you don't have to? Please don't. That was coolly worded. Duly noted, you're saying to me. Oh, it's making sense. Yeah, but I like daily bread, so I don't care about the dollars. Are you hearing this? If not, you probably turned it off by now, but you'll get stuff from this. Don't let me tell you something. except for the words that are coming out of my mouth. You can hear those if you'd like, but it's not about me. Please leave me alone. How many times can I run around this bush before I make it back home? You see what I mean? Where are you? You're where you are. You're where you're at right now. So stop trying to go do something else because you're not going to miss out on it if you don't. The point being, though, with what I was saying is you got this older car and you think it's going to do something for you because, be like your homie and he's got a brand new one. And so you get one. However that ends up happening, who cares? Money is just a man-made concept. It used to be just something you had to, work out to carry because it was physically gold bricks. And now it's just like a illusion of a number on a screen because even that in itself is just little colorful dots displaying what we think of as numbers being represented, which is just something we've come up with. You take something and you squiggle out this thing that's shaped like that, and we call that a number X, except that's a letter, but those are the same things as well, and we speak and somehow can understand it. It's just concepts. So before you turn this off, hear me out, right? Because I'm out of all this, dude, as much as I can be. I don't care, because you're not going to miss much. You got the brand new car. Now you got the same new BMW your homies got. And shoot, you know what you do miss, though? Your old car. All the memories that you had in it, right? And you don't really even care about this brand new one. But you thought you were missing out on something. Turns out, we live in a paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ, the truth of all things, where it's a little bit backward. And now you wish you could go that direction because you jumped into something a little too quick and now your pocketbook is a little bit emptier. But at least you don't have to carry those gold bricks around because you spent them all. See what I'm saying, dog? If not, open your eyes. It's right in front of you, the truth of all things. You can't deny truth unless you're denying truth. And all that means is that you're lying to yourself. That when you go on these vacations, it's going to be the best experience ever. And then you can't get a good night's sleep because you're thinking about how you're going to put your life back together when you get back home because you've been gone for a week and everything's falling apart. Wherever you go, there you are. But you never left. I mean, does that make any sense to anybody? If not, that's fine. But if it does, this will change your life. If it hadn't been something you understood prior to listening to me speak these words. It's not about me. Please leave me alone. I mean it. And definitely don't believe me until you go on your next vacation after hearing this and you're like, shoot, you can't deny truth, can you? Nope. You can try. It's not going to work. Without complications. You can do whatever you want until you realize you wish you didn't, because now you got a lot less comfort, but a brand new BMW, but they used to make them a lot better, right? Oh, gosh. So you're really not going to miss much. You won't miss much. That's the title of episode 70. Holy cow! 7 times 10 has now got us to this number of In the Image Clothing Company podcast episodes that have been made up until today's date, which is the 26th of February, 2025. So I'm going to wrap it up. It's hard-hitting, and that's all it needs to be to explain this, because hypothetical after hypothetical would be kind of like going on vacation after vacation, expecting something different each time, and it's the same thing. The gospel of Jesus Christ is as simple as it is. I always talk about how life is so very simple. Again, don't believe me. I don't have to be right about anything because I don't want to be, actually. I say that as often as I say it. I don't care to be right. I just want truth. And the truth is, the gospel of Jesus Christ, because it's simple, doesn't mean that it's easy. But again, you're a human being, and you look at these beautiful families over in a really small country in Africa. And Africa, for the past amount of who knows, at least in my experience, has been this country that people look at as if it's like so poor And in many ways, it's a third world place, yes, right? Africa, the continent, right? There's countries within Africa. What I'm saying is it's a place where in a lot of places within the continent, there's not many resources. And so that's what, in a lot of ways, can make it be a third world country. No matter how capable the people are, no matter how knowledgeable or whatever, you only have the amount of resources you have, and that's all you have. That's where I'm going with this. The reason I used Africa as an example is because from my personal visual experience, I've never been to Africa. Like, my physical flesh hasn't actually stepped foot on that continent, okay? But what I've seen within, things that have been filmed in Africa, which I'm so grateful to be able to watch, anything. The gift of video, as I say and have said many times, I love video so much. They live full lives with very little things, okay? So it's not so easy to make sure that they can get water every day when it's not something that they can have just come through a pipe into their house, as we have often in first world countries, right? But even in first world countries, there's still people who are living on the street and their lives are fuller than somebody else who's in the penthouse suite. I mean, it's not a joke. And so you're not missing out on much. And we're not going to get so much into it. Gosh darn it. I'm not upset. But it's just, I don't know. I want it as simple as it is, and it is that simple. That's why I said we're wrapping it up, because I could stop right there. But this is also something we could touch on for a very long time. We're wrapping it up. Well, yes, we are. The point being, though, with the African family example, over in a continent where there's just not much. It's a really dry area. There's not much growing. It's like it's a desert. That's what I mean, is the resources aren't there. Sure, you've got a river, maybe, until the weather patterns change and it dries up, and you got to go find a different one just to have enough water for your flesh, being your human body, right? And these people, though, man, I mean, I'm not trying to speak for more than I'm trying to speak for, so don't hear this incorrect, for your sake, because this is a beautiful thing that I've seen. Meaning people that I've personally been able to watch through video, they live such fulfilled lives, but they don't have very much. Their breadth of experience isn't very broad, but their depth is deeply rooted in the little that they do have, the connections they have with the people that they love, their family members and friends, and their connection with what they've really been given, their own personal body, which is the only way you're going to experience anything as a human being, is if you have one of those, and the earth that they're placed onto. And then, right, the water that they do get to drink, they have a relationship with it because they've walked 4 miles to get it each day, because after doing that, you can only carry what you can come back with, and so tomorrow you have to do it again. You know what I mean? So they have a depth of experience with the little that they do have, and that's what's actually making their lives full versus the breadth of experience that will never fill you. Right? I mean, if you think about it, just filling something up. A breadth of experience, you got 10 cups or vessels of holding something, and you fill them up a little bit. It's like a breadth of experience. Well, you're not full. They're all just very slightly full of something that, can barely benefit you. But you get 1 cup and you get a depth of experience and you fill it all the way up. There you go, right? Talk about fill my cup till it runneth over. Talk about the truth of all things. Okay, I will. In the Image Clothing Company podcast, right? So this is episode 70. I almost started crying, as you could hear my... Oh, gosh. It makes me uncomfortable. Just because I know how people are. I know how I've been in times in my life. I know how it is to think that if I just get that thing, if I just go to that place, if I just talk to this person, if my girlfriend's just this hot, or my boyfriend's a hunk, what? I'll tell you the answer. You're going to be more empty after you get any one of those things. And you can get them. You can get whatever you want in this world. Go do it. And sometimes it just takes a lot of experience to know, but it's never going to fill you. Because each place you go, you're still the one going there. And it's what's within you that doesn't feel fulfilled. Nothing external will fill you inside, right? I mean, yeah. I'm gonna wrap it up. We can get all talking for as long as I do, because this is something I could just not care to talk about, because I don't. But I see how empty people feel. It's because they're lacking the depth. And you have the ability to do it, but it just isn't what the world wants. It's not what the world pushes or preaches. The more you get rid of, the more you appreciate that little bit of water that you just walked 4 miles for each day, right? It's the depth. So I'm going to cut my discussion off right there. I'm being prompted to. We are in the Image Clothing Company after all, and we will have clothing available when we do. Staying centered, fitting correct, allowing the body to work. If you'd like to purchase it, if and when, and don't feel obligated, because you don't have to. But you can, and it'll just do what we say it does, right? I mean, every intention of ours is just those things that I just mentioned. It'll be made out of 100% natural materials. The body's natural. That's the only thing it's ever going to mesh with. So, yeah, my name is Evan Strong, as I said, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is where we're going to cut this with absolute contentment, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite laid out just how it has been. But I'm grateful, man. Yeah, I feel like I'm just supposed to stop talking. So it's the 26th of February, 2025. Thank you.